Your name gives me dominion over you, demon. And I do know your name. You are Valak, the Defiler, the Profane, the Marquis of Snakes. Your movies are confusing. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and the Holy Spirit, I condemn you to this episode of Monster Menagerie! Welcome to Monster Menagerie, brought to you by the Paladin Archives. My name is Mason Cren. Mason's the title, Cren is the name. I am your host as we journey through the realm of hellish fiends known as demons. So far this year, we've seen everything from classics like Pazuzu of The Exorcist fame, all the way to modern maleficent manifestations like,
the radio demon, Alistair.
Why, yes, I do always bring him up just so I can do that voice, thank you for asking. But I figured we needed something more, evil. Something more sinister. So, let's take a step away from the levity of David Tennant's Crowley and Adventure Time's Hudson Abadir to examine something truly evil. The Defiler, the Marquis of Snakes, Valak. The Conjuring 2 and The Nun, our sources for today's analysis. While I usually restrict myself to a single instance of a subject, I found that watching The Conjuring 2, which introduces Valak, didn't give me anything to really work with, nothing to sink my teeth into. So I supplemented that viewing with The Nun, which, I'm gonna be honest, didn't do much more. But I think that between the two movies, I have enough to give us an honest approach to Valak. Apparently referred to as the Conjurverse, Valak is part of a franchise of films which include the Conjuring series, the Nun series, and the Annabelle series. The core Conjuring films are, apparently, based on true events, while the rest are more, well, not. Which I will certainly address later in this review. These movies, they vex me. But before we get too deep into Valak and the weird decisions made by everyone in those movies, I just want to remind you that if you do like what you see here today and you want to see more, give us a like and click that little subscribe bell. Doing so helps YouTube know people are interested and suggest us to more people. Plus, it'll make sure you don't miss any of our videos, most especially our Demon Celebration in December. If you were here last year during our Year of the Vampire, we rounded them all up in December to rank and compare them. I brought in some expert vampire VTubers to help me out, and I've got some more demonic VTubers waiting in the wings to help me with the demons this year. You're not gonna want to miss it. Alright, grab your Bibles, your cereal box Ouija boards, and your holy hand grenades of Christ blood as we prepare to look into the Defiler, the Marquis of Snakes, Valak. As usual, I'm only going with what we can glean from our specific movies, The Nun and The Conjuring 2. Which is a fancy way of saying I wasn't gonna watch the entire Conjurverse to get the small strands of info that reference Valak. This works though, remember? I'm a Mason with the Paladin Order, so oftentimes I only have what I can observe to go off of. Sometimes there just isn't a book in the archives or a file in the database that covers the dark creature we're looking at, so paying close attention to the limited observations I have is something I have to learn to be comfortable with. Did they buy it? From The Nun, we get the backstory, however confusingly, that a baron a few centuries back built a castle in remote Romania. Here, he sought to connect with the powers of hell, calling on demons. The Vatican caught wind of this and stormed the castle.
Have fun storming the castle!
Destroying the baron and sealing up the portal to hell, utilizing the Wait. Sorry, I think there's a mix-up in my notes. Hold on. Maddie? Hey, Maddie. Yeah, Maddie, it says the blood of Christ. Like, do they mean symbolically, or or is it like with the Eucharist, or literally a vial of Jesus' blood, Jesus Christ's blood, like Jesus, and it's still around in 1952, just like chilling in an abbey in Romania. Still liquid? Didn't coagulate. Huh. The blood of Christ to seal the dark portal. Then, instead of razing that place to the ground and erasing it from the map, they turned it into a cloister, tasking an unfortunate group of nuns with keeping watch over it. This apparently worked well until World War II, when an errant bomb struck the castle in the middle of nowhere in Romania, where the nearest village had like 40 people. So, of course, the most tempting targets for the not this time. The most tempting of targets for the Axis powers. Valak, our demon in question, apparently squeezed through the cracks at some point and took on the appearance of one of the nuns in order to, mock them? Hide amongst them? The nuns apparently had the blood of Christ locked up with a very awkward key, and we're going to use it to seal the portal once more, but I guess they waited too long? Apparently the sisters had to pray 24/7 in shifts just to contain Valak. But at the same time, Valak could walk freely around the abbey? But also, Valak needed a vessel to leave the abbey, which he chose not to attempt taking until there were only 2 nuns left, and he killed one of them? Look, Valak's motives are murky at best. This movie was written for the audience's entertainment and not for the characters within it. So, after the last nun unalived herself out the window, the Vatican tasked Father Burke and Sister Irene to investigate. Which is weird, because, clearly the Vatican became aware of unaliving, but when Frenchie, yes, that's his name, and technically he's French-Canadian, leads them to the abbey, not a single person has touched the body, so, authorities knew about it? But then the mother of the abbey, who was clearly Valak, acted like they didn't know about the death, which was just... Okay, listen, the backstory makes no sense going forward. I mean, it didn't make a lot of sense prior to this point, but it all falls apart here. Just know that Valak is posing as a nun in the abbey. All the nuns are dead, but Sister Irene has visions, right? So she sees the nuns as if they're still alive and even gets some weird exposition dropped on her, but then that's kind of weird because, why would Valak want to give her information like that? And if it wasn't Valak giving her the information, then wouldn't Irene know that she was having a vision? It's all unclear. So then there's a lot of spookums that don't really seem to progress Valak's goal, whatever that might be. Burke is buried alive in a grave with his name on it and a convenient bell to ring for help. Irene confronts Valak. They split up Scooby-Doo style when Frenchie comes back to help, and Irene... Maddie, I think there's another mistake in the notes. Yeah, it says she spits the blood of Christ at Valak. Just in her mouth, like some divine Listerine? And out like she's a nun version of the Great Muda? Okay, well, at least using up the precious remaining drops of the literal Son of God's blood destroys Valak, right? Took Frenchie 5 minutes ago. Well, then what was with the ceiling scene? And wait, why did Frenchie rescue Irene? And that about sums up the story of Valak the Defiler, Marquis of Snakes. Any questions? None. Good. Let's move on quickly. Demons, especially those like Valak or Pazuzu, are hard to nail down when it comes to their abilities. Even more so in the case of Valak. In The Conjuring 2, they enslave a ghost, one Bill Wilkins. So at least within that movie, it can be confusing which abilities are coming from Valak and which are coming from Bill. I'm gonna go ahead and give the demon the benefit of the doubt and just attribute everything to Valak. Better to overestimate a demon than under, right? First up, we have illusions and manifestations. By that, I'm referring to the fact that Valak appeared as a nun, letting them hide amongst the sisters at the abbey. Now, originally, I assumed that nun she drags into the darkness, I assumed that was Valak, that she had possessed the nun. But seeing as how she didn't actually leave the abbey, when the movie explicitly states she needs a vessel to leave the abbey, I guess that just means she was appearing to look like one? Now, Sister Irene was never quite certain what she was looking at in that movie. Or maybe it was just me. I'm also going to include in Valak's repertoire the ability to take the form of the Crooked Man, a rather grotesque figure from a children's nursery rhyme and a little zoetrope, because these movies can't be complete without a creepy children's song and an old-timey toy. We see evidence of them utilizing telekinesis, generally in that toss the protagonists or pin them against the wall way, rather than actually like hurling them out a window or smashing them with something heavy. You know, I think I read a grimoire once that said demons have to work up to killing someone if, they're important. Beyond that, we have the typical demon movie powers that are ill-defined. A bit of pyromancy, a bit of wind conjuration, all in ways that feel like they're not directed specifically toward killing our protagonists so much as frightening them. But the real power, the one I actually legit fear, is that freaky teleportation they do. All jokes aside, this ability is the game changer in a confrontation between paladins and Valak. We see in The Conjuring 2 that little Janet, who Valak possesses on and off throughout the film, is teleported around the house into the most awkward of places, the most blatant example being pulled through the ceiling into a room that's been locked by chains. That's freaky as hell, but Father Burt gets it even better. He's just minding his own business. Well, sort of. I guess he is there investigating. But Valak moves on him out of nowhere and just sends him out of the convent into a sealed coffin, 6 feet under. He's buried alive, which may or may not be one of my worst fears.
Hi, future Cren here from the editing booth. So I may have made a tiny misunderstanding, kind of misinterpreted just a little bit. So apparently, Father Burke doesn't so much get teleported directly into the coffin so much as he is scared by an illusion and trips backward into the coffin. But you'll notice there's a bunch of dirt that's missing, and then it gets filled in. So Valak's definitely bringing that dirt in from somewhere. So still, I'd say just as deadly. I don't think it really changes much in the end, but just being straight up with you. All right. And I like your hair, by the way. Whatever you're doing, it's really working for you. All right, bye.
That power alone could be the one that makes the biggest difference between paladins taking a W and paladins running out of continues. Clearly, this is going to be a group effort. Let's see how the people in the movies handle Valak. Since I did the uncharacteristic thing and watched 2 whole movies for this analysis, we actually have 2 sets of protagonists to look at for how to defeat Valak. First off, it looks like crosses seem to work for warding Valak. Sometimes. The field of crosses in the Abbey's graveyard seems to be there to keep them in, if Frenchie is to be believed, and the nuns there seem to think that lining that fog machine hallway will do something? And yet, Valak still roams the Abbey at their leisure. Likewise, they cover Janet's room in just all the crosses and crucifixes. Yes, there is a difference. But it doesn't stop Valak. So clearly, crosses aren't one of Valak's weaknesses. Clearly, crosses are one of Valak's weaknesses. We see both Father Burke and Ed Warren use their own crosses to push back against Valak, and both times the demon reacts noticeably. Good thing to keep in mind. Oh, speaking of the Warrens, Lorraine uses a very different method to Sister Irene to banish Valak. We see that in The Conjuring 2, exorcising Valak is so simple, a layperson, that is to say, not empowered by the church, is able to send them back to hell simply by knowing their name. Now, I will confirm, for paladins, this is a huge boon. Knowing a demon's name gives you much more power over them, so clearly Valak is a threat anyone could potentially deal with no special preparations. But Valak is not so simply dealt with by those who are unprepared. Even the will of Father Burke and Sister Irene, servants of God dispatched by the Vatican itself, pales in comparison to Valak's power. Nothing short of the very blood of Jesus Christ, Son of God himself, can take down Valak, and even then, not completely. Truly a threat that not even the professionals can take lightly. Have I made it clear that things are a bit murky with this demon? See, this is why I usually restrict myself to one source. Well, with all that in mind, how would the paladins handle this threat? Valak is a strange creature of contradictions. Weaknesses we see in one movie either aren't present or are at the very least unexploited in the other. I shudder to think how much more confusing this would be if I kept watching the Conjurverse movies. In any case, it feels like Valak is right up the alley for a good team of paladins. And yes, it's going to take a team effort here. Now, much like we see in The Conjuring 2, paladins know that having the name of a demon greatly increases the ability to exorcise it. Most paladin anti-demon specialists utilize a technique referred to as tactile exorcism, or what the church would call the laying on of hands. In fact, I've mentioned before St. Michael's Parish has an anti-demon paladin who is quite talented at laying hands on demons. Over and over and over. So, of course, our primary path to victory is going to be a simple exorcism. Maneuver yourself into such a way as to place hands on Valak and disrupt his hold on this plane. And with Valak so keen to get up in everyone's business, that shouldn't be too hard. No, the hard part is figuring out what's real and what's not. Anti-demon, anti-specters should probably be in the lead on this one to take care of Valak, the other to take care of potential lackeys like Bill Wilkins. Between the two, I should hope they're able to sort out the illusions from reality. Now, the biggest problem I see is that freaking teleportation. I'm not too worried about the telekinesis or the other stuff. A family of mostly children and 2 glorified hunters survived all that. But turning the corner and stepping off a rooftop? Or being pulled into a locked cellar? Or, like in the film, literally being dropped into a coffin that's already 6 feet under? Yeah, that's gonna be a real problem. I think if the team that's dispatched has good chemistry, keeps in communication well, it shouldn't be an insurmountable issue. In fact, depending on how motivated Valak is to break out the big guns, our paladins might have this settled by lunch. It really depends on which part of the plot Valak is currently in, right? So, Act 1 annoyances, Act 2 scares, or the dreaded Act 3 death attempts. White vestments might help ward off some of Valak's mojo and, of course, liberal use of holy water and crucifixes. After all, those always work, except when they don't. My job with the Paladin Order is to field incoming calls from Paladins and get them the information they need to face whatever threat they're tracking. Was that a wolfman or a lichen? What do kobolds typically eat? Do I need special ammunition to bring down a charging Nuclavy? It's my job to look through the archives and get back to them with a concise, informative analysis. To that end, I utilize a sort of shorthand called the threat level. Threat level is a scale from 1 to 10, though in practice it doesn't actually go beyond 6. Think of 7 to 10 as wiggle room, hypothetical dangers. The point is, don't think of the scale in a purely linear fashion. A threat level 2 isn't twice as dangerous as a 1, right? And don't worry about threat level 10s. If we ever had one, even I wouldn't be told about it. There'd be no reason. I went for Valak this month because, well, after Crowley and Hunts and Abadir, I figured we needed a demon that was more, well, demonic. Something more dangerous, more classic, like Pazuzu. Now, let me be frank. Valak is clearly more dangerous than Pazuzu, but that said, I don't think they're that much more dangerous. Valak seems to have trouble taking down a Vatican priest, a novitiate nun, and a husband and wife ghost hunting duo. And Valak had help on that second one. Despite having powers that should, theoretically, make it a snap to toss her foes out the window or bury them alive without a little bell to signal the outside world, and in a coffin filled with books on how to stop them, Valak still manages to screw these things up. If I'm honest, I still don't follow Valak's motivations in either of those movies. If they wanted their foes dead, why didn't they just kill them right away? And if they wanted a vessel to escape the Abbey, why wander the halls for so long without taking a host? We know it can't be that hard to possess someone. They possessed Frenchie literally off-screen. You know, with demons like Crowley and now Valak, I wonder if I should start giving these guys 2 threat rankings. One for their potential and one for their practical threat levels. Well, since I don't want to spend any more time thinking about Valak's wasted potential than I already am, let's just get down to it. He's dangerous. He's scary. But he's dumber than most horror movie villains, and, of course, an untrained, unordained ghost hunter armed only with his name can exorcise him while being pinned to a wall. I'm gonna split the difference between potential and practical and just say that Valak is a threat level 2. Now, let's take a quick look at his demon class. The class type, if you're new here, isn't a reflection of Valak's power or threat, but a classification to help paladins in the field know what kind of demon he is. Around these parts, we typically only use classes 1 through 3. 1 is your average, mindless hellspawn, barely cognizant of their surroundings, creatures of pure malice and instinct, nearly incapable of prolonged exposure to our world. Class 2 are sentient, but they lack the capacity to maintain a grip on this world without a host. And 3 are ones that are self-sufficient, sapient, and can exist here without a host. Being that we learn in The Nun that Valak can't leave the Abbey without a host, I'm going to go ahead and say that, despite his power, he's a Class 2 demon. Paperwork time. Dispatch full parish with anti-demon, anti-specter leads. Recommend white vestments, holy water, and crucifixes. Utilize radio earpieces for constant contact in case of separation. Utilize typical anti-demon protocols with an emphasis on vocal exorcism. Prepare for possible specter activity. Before we wrap this party up, I just had 2 little things that were bugging me that I needed to address, and I couldn't find a good place for them. Guys, if I don't get these things off my chest, I will explode. It's a medical condition. I can't help it. First off, it's lesson time, class. Class, do we know what this is? Anyone? Anyone? Yes, that is correct. That is a Petrin cross, or the Cross of St. Peter. So many horror movies make the mistake of thinking that somehow an upside-down cross is evil or satanic. I assure you, the last thing a demon would do is turn a cross or crucifix upside down. Why? When crucified, St. Peter felt that he wasn't worthy to die in the same position that Christ did and requested he be crucified upside down. So, the upside-down cross is a sign of piety, of humility, of adoration for Christ. Still not sold? How about I show you a frickin' throne with an upside-down cross on it, huh? Yeah, the Pope's chair is pretty metal. So, when you see a room full of crosses turning upside down, I hope you think about this. Or at least you think of the words of CinemaSins.
Oh, she's being haunted by St. Peter.
Now, there's one last thing about this movie that, as a Mason, really chaps my hide. It's more apparent in the original The Conjuring, but it shows up at the end of The Conjuring 2 as well. The Warrens' Trophy Room, otherwise known as their occult museum, or the Artifact Room. Look at this. Do you have any idea what this does to a Mason like me? Well, I just so happened to have brought in my good friend Mason Quinn from Artifacts to get her take.
Hey, Cren, I'm actually a little swamped right now. What's this artifact you wanted me to look at?
Oh, it's a movie, actually.
What?
No, for real. It's just like 30 seconds. Here, look at this.
Okay. What am I looking at? Someone's garage or something?
No, this is like a trophy room in the family's house.
Okay.
The parents are like famous ghost hunters.
Well, that looks like a hoarder's paradise. Wait, what are these?
All artifacts from cases they solved.
What? Are they like inactive or something?
Maybe, probably not. And each one of them is confirmed to have been part of a case with either a ghost or a demon.
What the hell? And they're just on shelves? Does that doll have a sign on it that says do not open?
Oh, it gets better. This isn't even like a basement or a garage or something. It's just a normal room in their house.
Ain't no way.
And they have a teenage daughter that they left alone to go to England.
Es que de verdad tienen que ser tan estúpidos para tener las cosas así. Es que, ¿sabes qué? Se lo merecen. Es que de verdad, yo no entiendo cómo se puede ser tan estúpido en esta vida, pero ¿sabes qué? Si algo le pasa, pues se lo merecen, porque de verdad...
Yeah, thought you guys should see that. Somehow, I'm a bit disappointed. Not that I didn't have fun with Valak, but I was really looking for a demon this month that would be, I don't know, threatening, demonic. You know, give the Order a real run for its money. I didn't realize how confusing the movies were. If you like the Conjurverse, I have no ill will towards you. You do you. Enjoy your movies, but for me, it just didn't land. And Valak just didn't live up to the hype. Guess we'll try again next month. What about you guys, though? What did you think of Valak? A little more imposing than Hudson Abadir, right? And certainly more menacing than Azrael. If you think you have just the demon for us, let us know down in the comments. And while you're at it, let me know what you thought about Valak. Maybe I'm being too hard, huh? Either way, this isn't the end of the road for Valak, or any of the other demons we've looked at this year. Because, as I said before, the end of this year, we're bringing everyone together to compare them and decide which demons stand out amongst the group. Last year we looked at vampires, and I was blessed to have some amazing creators stop by to give their expert vampire opinions on the lineup. And this year, I'm putting together a dream team of demonic VTubers to weigh in again. It's all going down in December, so make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss it or any of the other demons along the way. While you're at it, if you're enjoying the world of the Paladin, make sure you swing by our website. There you can read sample chapters from our upcoming novel, The Paladin, check out short stories, like this snazzy little number that includes Theodore Roosevelt fighting an onslaught of werewolves. Learn a bit more about the Paladin Order, and my favorite little bit, find out which Paladin discipline you are. The link is down in the description. Thanks again for joining us today. Don't forget to hit us up on Twitter and Twitch. I stream several days a week, usually playing some chill games, but occasionally going over Paladin stuff too. I gotta run now. One of the cleaner teams is supposed to come through the archives for a scheduled cleansing. Make sure any of the residual curses on the books are subdued. If I don't get my desk cleared out ahead of time, they will douse my laptop in holy water and lemon spray. The citrus apparently is just to make it smell nicer. Until next time, keep your eyes peeled. You never know what's hiding out there.